Hi, Susie Homesteader of the Rockies, and today we are fixing a water heater element, or replacing one. This water heater I've had for about 5 years, and that's kind of typically the time frame that you'll get on your elements. And the reason I know one of these elements isn't working is because instead of a 20-minute hot shower, we're only getting 10 minutes. And there's another trick to knowing whether it's your top element or your bottom element. To determine that, if your first 10 minutes are hot and the last 10 minutes are cold, then it's probably your bottom element. If the first 10 minutes are cold and the last 10 minutes are hot, it's probably your upper element. So in my case, this water heater was only getting us about 10 minutes of hot water out of a 20-minute shower. So that's a good guess that the bottom element was not working. So this is what a water heater element looks like. There's another version of this where this coil will come down almost halfway down the bar. But I don't like that kind because it catches a lot more of the corrosion. So we're keeping a nice straight element on this one. So anyway, here's this book that usually gets taped to the side of your water heater when you buy it, which is a good place to leave it. And then there's a back page that we're going to take all the information from the front label that's hopefully still on your water heater as well, and copy that down on this little booklet. And that will include the wattage for your upper and lower elements. And then whether it's a 50-gallon tank and any other information, the brand, the manufacturer, anything else you need. So all I did was take this little notebook to my home improvement store or a plumbing store and hand them this information, and this is what I got. And some of these you might also need a gasket with, but most of them have the gasket connected to it, so don't let that confuse you when it asks you to put in the gasket first, because some of them are already on the element as well. And then you're also going to need a 1.5-inch socket to remove the old one and replace the new one. So you can also buy this when you buy the element if you don't have some big giant socket wrench like this. They make just a real cheap version, easy, lightweight one to remove your elements too if you need to get that tool. So you'll need a 1.5-inch socket to match your bottom of your element, and then they will also have hopefully a meter for you just to test the water heater element. And this is just a little more fancier version of that. This one's by Klein Tools. I think I paid like $54 for it. But I use this for everything, for testing electricity. But this tool will test your element. Now, or both your elements. But these are the materials that you're going to need to replace your water heater element. So let's get back to the most important part of this job, and that's going to be shutting off your electricity, because electricity and water do not mix at all. So after you've gotten all your tools and your element from whatever store you got it from, hopefully your sub-panel box will be located close by, and in my case it is because I have it all in this utility room. And then hopefully you labeled which breaker went to your water heater, and it's usually a double pole breaker. And you have got to make sure that is on off. And then as soon as that's off, you're good to go. But don't do anything before you shut off your power. So now that you have all your tools and your materials and your power's off, you're also going to go to the top of your water heater, and somewhere on the top, which is normally visible, but in my case I have a box covering it, there should be a shut-off valve on top of that. And if that is not your main water supply shut off, then you'll have to shut off the valve to your main water supply as well. There's also a what do you call that?
Relief valve.
Relief valve on the top of your water heater that you're going to want to lift up when you start draining it. But That's the only way you're going to get rid of that vacuum that might still be in the water supply there to get it to come out of your hose. So power's off, valves are off, main water supply valves are off, and your hose is on this bottom outlet. There's also another little valve on here that you'll have to use your screwdriver to open up to actually get that water to start flowing. So if you have a drain in your utility room or close to your water heater, which hopefully most people do because you want to have something close by, then obviously get your hose down to that drain or as close to that drain as you can, and then start opening up your water out of your tank here. So this is a 50-gallon tank that took almost 10-ish minutes to drain, depending on the size of your hose or how short your hose is or how big your water heater tank is. That will determine how fast it's going to drain. So in my case, this took about like 10, almost 15 minutes to drain. It doesn't go that fast. And then you'll have two panels. You'll have the top one for your top water heater element, and you'll have the bottom one for your bottom element. And I did test both of these, but I'll show you how this works. You're just gonna get your little tool, whatever little meter you find, and I already disconnected the black and the red wire, but in general, there's a black wire that will connect to one screw. This is your ground wire. And there is a red wire that will also connect to these two bottom screws. So you'll have one connected to this screw and one connected to the other. And then you're going to just take your red to the red wire and your black to the black wire, or to the screw, it doesn't matter, it's just got to touch metal. And then you should get a reading. Now, this one's being kind of crazy because this is the element that I know is going out. But anywhere between 11 and 16 is a good number on your ohms to ensure that your element is still good. If it's under 11 and all the way down to 0, then that is your element that's bad. So I now know, after testing both of these elements, this one, top one, read at like 12 and 13, which doesn't mean it's 100%, but it's still good to go. And this one, I got a couple different readings, but for the most part it was 0. So I did know that this was the element that was bad. So you can. This is a great one. This is Klein Tools. Like I said, I paid like $54 for this, but it's nice to use on lots of stuff. So tested the water heater, and when I took that panel off, this front panel, there was a little bit of insulation covering that, and there's also this little plastic safety sign that just basically tells you it's danger. So, and we already know that it's super dangerous. So lift up that little plastic tab, and then you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver or whatever kind of screw head they have on there. You're going to loosen those screws up. And again, your power's off. And I've already, as I said, I already disconnected these two wires from behind the screw terminal there. Took those out. And then you're going to get your socket wrench. And you're going to take out this element. That's after everything's drained. And I already drained mine, so I'm good to go. And that has to be 100% drained. So take out your element there with your socket wrench. Just loosen it, take it out, and we're going to look and see if this is the bad one. And oh yeah, that is pretty bad. And you can see that's even still kind of hot, so be careful, don't touch that. But this one is also missing a whole little piece right there. But there's the corrosion, that's all calcium, iron buildup, and there's a hole in that element. So that is definitely the element that's shot. And you can see the heat coming off of that still, even though it's drained. And that's just from the hot water coming down from the top element. That's not from the element working. So we're going to set that down. And then another tip too is if you have a water softener, that will absolutely extend the life of your heater element. I do have a water softener system because we have super hard water here in the Rockies. Lots of iron and lots of calcium. and yet I still didn't even get 5 years out of one of these elements. So, you know, water softeners are nice if you can get one, because it will extend the life of your water heaters, among a lot of other things. Alright, so here's a new one. You can see the difference here. Huge difference in elements. New one versus old one. We're going to put this old one in. Thankfully it's the same one, it's a match. Keep your insulation out of the way. Another thing you might want to do too is take some other little tool and get a lot of that corrosion out of there if you can, because there's still all kinds of buildup down here that you just plain old can't get to. So there's lots of corrosion in there. Not a lot we can do about that other than try and scrape some of it out or kind of break it up a little bit. Put your other element right in there. It should just slide right in. Get it started. Twist it on there. That one's going in really nice. Okay, and then tighten it with your socket wrench. Of course, as tight as you can go. Oh, that's probably could be a lot tighter, but that gives you an idea. Anyway, put your red wire and your black wire back underneath those screw terminals. You'll have to kind of eyeball that to see how that fits behind the screw there. Oh, lost that. That's a cool flashlight too. Anyway, just kind of get that little flap out of your way somehow. So get your wiring back behind your screws, and then of course you're going to screw your screws as tight as you can once you have those wires back in. Doesn't matter which side connects to which, they just both have to be on there. Anyway, get all your wiring back on, put that little plastic piece back down there, insulation, front panel, and then you got your element back in. So as soon as you get all your wiring and your elements back to what you're looking for, then you are going to retighten. Now that this is drained, you're going to retighten this valve again so that it's completely shut off. This valve is shut and there's no way to have water leaking out of that. So tighten that again with your other screwdriver, and then you can take your hose off, and then you can go back to your what was that called again?
Relief valve.
Relief valve. Go back to the little relief valve that you flipped up, flip it back down, lock that tight, open up your water valve here, and in my case it was on another wall. Open up your main water supply and start letting your tank fill up again. Now here's the super important thing. Do not turn your power back on until this tank is totally full. And it will shut off automatically. Your main valve here will shut off automatically when it's full. So you don't have to figure out when it's full or not. It'll just fill up to a certain point and you're good. And then when it's full, and I don't know how long that's going to take to fill back up because it's probably a lot faster than it took to drain, then you can go back and turn on your power supply, your main power supply to your water heater. And then I'm guessing it's probably going to take, you know, within the half hour to reheat again before your water heater is actually working at full speed. So then you can go back and run your shower or something and make sure that you've got at least your standard time of hot water. And for a 50-gallon tank, I think we had like 20 minutes of hot water. So you'll know if you got both of those elements working if your water heater's at full heat. So there you go. Hopefully you'll not have too many questions, but if you do, let me know. And if I can't answer them, then you can just call a plumber, and they'll be able to answer everything for you. But that was the cheapest way for us to fix our water heater, and you can do it all by yourself. Just be super careful. So we'll see you again at Susie Homesteader of the Rockies. Bye-bye. Let's get started. Subscribe to the Susie Homesteader channel, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye.